August 2025. I am standing for the 7th time on one of the highest points of the legendary alpine road through the Furka Pass. The air is crisp, filled with the scent of rock and melting snow. This is not, however, another tourist visit. It is the continuation of a personal chronicle of a giant's slow death. For the past several years, I have been returning here regularly. Each visit is like reading another, ever sadder chapter in the story of the Rhône Glacier. A place that once took one's breath away has become a powerful symbol, a melting testament to the climate change that is reshaping the Alps before our very eyes. The phenomenon of this place rests on two pillars. The first is history embodied by the abandoned Hotel Belvédère. It is a ghost of a bygone era. Built in 1882, it was a symbol of the luxury of the first alpine tourists. From its terraces, guests could almost touch the glacier's tongue. Old photographs show scenes from another world, elegant ladies and gentlemen, against a monumental wall of blue ice. Today the hotel stands alone, gazing down into a rocky valley. The glacier has retreated by over a kilometer. The second magnet is cinema. It was on these serpentine roads that James Bond sped in his Aston Martin, chasing Goldfinger. Every day, fans of Agent 007 stop here to recreate the iconic shots. That cinematic image, frozen in time, creates a powerful contrast with the dynamic, tragic reality of today. The iconic bend, a symbol of bravado, is now a viewpoint for an ecological catastrophe. But the most important reason people still come here is the glacier itself, and specifically, the ice grotto carved into its heart. The path from the car park to its entrance has lengthened dramatically. One must cross several hundred meters on footbridges, suspended over a barren, rocky valley that was filled with ice just a decade ago. These are bridges thrown over a void, over a fresh scar in the landscape. The glacier's snout, to survive the summer, is covered with enormous white sheets. The sight is surreal and shocking. It resembles a gigantic bandage placed on an open wound. It is a desperate, symbolic attempt to buy a few more years for a tourist attraction. The grotto's interior has also changed. It is shorter, and the ice seems thinner, more tired, and the symphony of sounds has become more intense. It is no longer a gentle dripping, but the roar of flowing water, dull cracks and groans, as if the entire structure is straining under the rising temperature. These are the authentic sounds of dying. Standing in this blue corridor, one becomes an eyewitness to a process that normally takes millennia. It's compressed here into the scale of a human lifetime. My personal observations find their brutal confirmation in cold, scientific data. Institutions like GLAMOS have been conducting meticulous monitoring for decades. The data is unequivocal. In just 2 years, between 2022 and 2023, Swiss glaciers lost 10% of their volume. That's as much as melted over the entire 30 years between 1960 and 1990. The process is no longer linear. It has become a non-linear, accelerating collapse. The glacier can no longer be saved. Its mass balance is catastrophically negative. Even snow-rich winters cannot compensate for the increasingly extreme summer heat waves. An additional factor is Saharan dust, which settles on the snow, darkening it and drastically accelerating the melt. We have crossed the point of no return. A melting glacier does not disappear without a trace. It transforms the landscape into a more dangerous environment. The meltwater creates new, unstable lakes, dammed by weak moraines. This gives rise to the deadly threat of a glacial lake outburst flood, known as a gluff, the sudden release of enormous masses of water. Mud and boulders creates a destructive wave that rushes down the valley. The static mass of ice is replaced by a dynamic, kinetic threat. Now, the death of the Rhône Glacier is not a local tragedy. It is a blow to the heart of Europe's hydrological system. The Alps, known as Europe's water tower, feed the continent's greatest rivers. The Rhône River, which begins here, flows through Switzerland and France to the Mediterranean Sea, sustaining life and economies along the way. Switzerland's reservoir is critically dependent on this water. Its agriculture, vineyards, and orchards rely on irrigation. Paradoxically, the region is now experiencing a temporary increase in water flow due to accelerated melting. Kana regret. Al gravar. Known as peak water, creates an illusion of abundance. This surplus, however, is not a sustainable income, but a rapid liquidation of its capital, the glacier itself. Once it disappears, a permanent deficit will follow. The same is true for hydropower, a pillar of the country's energy strategy. Since the 1980s, melting glaciers have supplied extra water to power plants as subsidy from climate change. But this period will be followed by a permanent decline in production. The most insidious effect, however, is the invisible change in water temperature. Without the cooling input from the ice, alpine rivers are warming at a rate close to that of the air. For the ecosystem, this is a thermal shock. Cold water trout are dying out, replaced by invasive species. The river may look full while being ecologically dead for its native inhabitants. This seventh visit confirms my conviction. The Rhône Glacier is no longer an attraction. It has become a laboratory in an open-air lecture hall. The Hotel Belvédère no longer looks out at a living, powerful glacier. It stands like a silent mourner before a tomb of gray rock. The sounds of melting ice on the Furka Pass are no longer just part of the atmosphere. They are the ticking of a clock, counting down the time not just for this glacier, but for our entire world. It is the audible, measurable sound of a collapsing system. This requiem is not an artistic interpretation, but a literal transcription of its agony. And my role is to write this requiem down before the final notes fade away forever. The silence that will follow the last drop of meltwater will not be a silence of peace, but a silence of finality.